Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use selective color, which is one of my favorite adjustment layers for skin tone. It's so good because it's subtle. And when it comes to skin tone, you want these to be subtle, subtle, subtle. So let's go ahead and show you how to use it. All right, so let's start off by opening up our selective color.jpg here. Obviously, we've got a picture of someone's face. There we go. And we're going to be using our selective color. So let's go to our adjustment layer. It's right down here on the bottom, selective color. And we're going to start off with reds. This is a lot of the time I'm using this for skin tone. So a lot of the time I'm sticking with reds. But basically, you can adjust your levels here, your cyan, magenta, yellow levels, and black levels within the red. So you're basically just giving the reds like simple color shifts. And you can see, even if I like crank this really, really far, it's not changing it that much. As opposed to like if you had a hue saturation adjustment layer and cranked that slider, look how much it's gonna change that, okay? So when you're adjusting skin tone and you wanna do subtle adjustments on colors, selective color is really the way to go. So let's go ahead and see. In this case, we've just got a little bit too much red and a little bit too much yellow in this image. Now, we know from our wonderful little color wheel here, red and cyans are opposite, right? So my first slider says cyan, okay? If I increase my cyans, it's gonna decrease my reds. So go over here, it's gonna increase, less cyans equal more red, more cyans equal less red. So in this case, we're just gonna click and drag that to the right, a little bit more cyans. Magenta levels look pretty good. If anything, it's a little bit on the green side, tiny bit, but let's work with our yellow levels first. If I increase that, it's gonna be more yellow. Decrease this, it's going to be less yellow or more blue. There we go, and that looks pretty good. We don't wanna go too far. And then magenta, more magenta, it will add more magenta to the image. If I go to the left, it's gonna add more green. All right, so we'll go ahead and zero that one out. And that looks pretty good. It's still got a little bit too much yellow, so I'm just gonna pull that a little bit to the left. And then our cyan level, there we go, just right about there. And we're looking pretty good. Okay, so you can see pretty subtle adjustments. And having an okay knowledge of your color wheel does help, because instead of this saying red, green, and blue, it says cyan, magenta, and yellow. Just keep in mind that cyan's opposite is red, yellow's opposite is blue, and magenta's opposite is green. So it really is RGB. I don't know why they should have just had that say red, green, and blue, but they didn't. They wanted to be different in this case. Okay, and then we have our constant, which will actually darken or lighten things. So sometimes if people have like dark shadows on their face, I'll target it using the reds and select the color, and then just take our constant, our black, and then push this to the left, and that's just gonna lighten those up just a little bit. So let's go ahead and bring that back to 0 again. Now, obviously, you do have other colors that you can use here, and you can even go into your neutrals if you want. Let's go into our blacks, because I think our blacks just have a little bit too much blue. So I'm gonna push a little bit of yellow into our blacks there. All right, and you can go to your whites, and I'm gonna pull a little bit of blue into my whites there. Okay, and you really can see it's just affecting, let's zoom in here, really is just affecting, like you can see it around the border there, just the light colors. But it's also getting a little bit of the highlight color on our subject's skin there. So you can see a little bit more yellow, a little bit more blue. And these are subtle changes, but again, when working with skin, for the most part, I do recommend subtle changes. So let's go back to our reds. Just make sure, I think our magenta is just a little bit too much, so I'm gonna pull that down a little bit. Pull our cyan down just a little bit as well, and then pull our yellow down. There we go, and we're looking pretty good. So let's just turn that off and on. Just pretty subtle adjustments. I think actually we put a little bit too much blue in there. There we go. I always recommend turning these off and on just to make sure everything is looking good. All right, I want to put a little bit more magenta in there too. All right, cool. So some relatively quick color correction. There's our before and the after. Relatively simple and nice and subtle. So again, The biggest thing I use selective color for is on skin. It does a really knockout job.